mean to start the broadcast. Is there a way to stop it? Sorry, hold on.
Let's see.
Sorry, I pushed the buttons too quickly.
Oh, okay, that's all right. So we should be good. Yeah, I work from home normally, but the main difference is that my daughter's here with me and my husband. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Totally get it. Hold on, let me just do something really quickly. How do I?
Okay.
So we should be good to go.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for our webinar. Apologies for the technical difficulties that some of you might have heard. Just a couple things before we get started today. I want to do a quick audio check. If you can hear us all right, can you just click the raise hand icon just so I can see and make sure that everybody's hearing us okay? All right, good. We've got 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, wonderful. Looks like we're in good shape on that end. Okay, so my name is Megan Elrath. I'm an alumni career consultant here at the Career Services Office at UGA Career Center. If this is your first time attending one of our webinars, just to let you know, we usually have about 2 a month, along with some other virtual programming, like chat-based resume and LinkedIn critiques. If you want to find out what webinars and virtual events we have coming up, you can go to the UGA Career Center website or the Alumni Association website. We have a brand new career website with some great resources that you all can use, including some webinars that have been recorded and are ready to go for you to watch anytime. So just go to career.uga.edu and click alumni at the top right of the page. Also, the webinar is being recorded. So if you missed something or if you feel like you need to hear parts of the presentation a second time, you'll be able to do that. And a link will be emailed to you sometime tomorrow. So look for that in your email. If you have any questions, feel free to type it in the questions chat box. I will be checking that throughout the presentation to see if there are any questions, and we'll facilitate that by reading it as we go along. There are also some poll questions, so we're going to encourage you to participate in the presentation as those come up. And there are some handouts, that you'll see kind of in your dashboard, so you can go ahead and download those whenever you're ready. And finally, I'm so happy to introduce our guest speaker today, Hallie Crawford. She is a certified career coach and national career expert based in Atlanta, Georgia. Her company, HallieCrawford.com, and team of coaches have helped thousands of people worldwide to identify and transition into their dream career. Hallie is regularly featured as a career expert in the media, including Forbes.com, The Wall Street Journal, CNN, AGC, and Fox Business News. For more information about their services, you can visit www.HallieCrawford.com. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Hallie, so go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Megan. That was perfect. Really appreciate it, and appreciate everyone being here today. We're all, or at least a lot of us, the majority of us are probably working from home, and greatly appreciate your time being with us today, especially given everything else that's going on in the world. Just as a quick heads up, I am working from home, and my dog is here, and my 12-year-old son, so I think they will be good and you won't hear them in the background, but if you did hear something really briefly, just as a reminder, that's what's going on. And as Megan said, I'm a certified career coach. I'm actually based in Atlanta, Georgia, and my team and company, we have been coaching for over 19 years now, so we've been in business for a very long time. And I have an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University as well as a graduate degree from the University of Illinois, and absolutely love what I do. We're going to be talking today about how to know when it's time to go, when it's time to make a career change or transition, and kind of some steps and tools to help you identify whether how you're feeling, whether it's frustration or lack of fulfillment or whatever it is going on for you. Is it due to like a passing phase, or is it something that you need to consider in the long run that, gosh, I need to make a change? But I did, in our first slide here, I don't want to just skip over the fact and not acknowledge what's going on in the world. And I did want to just let everyone know that I realize a lot of people are in a very difficult way being impacted by the world economy and COVID and what's going on. And I wanted to start out today by giving you all some just kind of some quick tips about what you can do to help with your search during these difficult times. And also acknowledge for you all too that right now I get that you may not be thinking as much about, gosh, it's time to change jobs. Instead, you may be saying, I'm just happy to have one and I'm going to stay put until we get through this. And I totally get that and acknowledge it. And I think that's a really smart idea. One of the things we could think about is the time that we do have at home while we're working remotely for however much longer is in some ways it could be a good time for some of you to think about, okay, gosh, do I like this working from home thing and do I want to be able to do it in the long run? Other people might be thinking, do I need to have like a side gig as kind of a backup just for kind of crises like this? And others of you may be in really proactive job search mode and thinking, gosh, I can't really think as much right now about, you know, what my long-term career direction is. I just need to find something. So I wanted to just give you all a few quick tips to help you deal with the current situation. And then we will talk about, you know, how to start thinking now during any downtime that you might have, what the long-term solution would be for you career-wise, and how to know whether after this is all settled, do I need to make a dramatic shift? So as a quick reminder, you will get a recording of this, and in just a few moments here, if anyone would like a copy of the presentation so that they don't have to frantically write everything down, please just email us at admin@halliecrawford.com. The email address is at the bottom of the slide here. Some of these tips I just wanted to share with you all in terms of job seeking, if that's the case for you at this moment, to recommend that you follow companies that you're interested in kind of checking out or would be interested in the long run, okay, whether it's now or for later. Do follow organizations and companies on Twitter because sometimes they will post about job openings, okay? So I just wanted to throw that out there. You can just create a free Twitter account. You don't have to worry about how you look and all of that because it's not about selling yourself necessarily, but just keeping in the loop about what's going on with them in terms of hiring, et cetera. So that would be one thing we want you to do. The second thing to do is definitely start joining some LinkedIn groups. Networking is moving online given what's going on, so join LinkedIn groups for networking online in addition to your UGA alumni LinkedIn group. And Megan did not pay me to say that. We tell all of our clients to check out their alumni organization and get on LinkedIn with them. Flexjobs.com, if you're looking for some contract or part-time work, they just reduced their subscription price yesterday to help people out a little bit more. I would go ahead and set up some job alerts on these two websites, Glassdoor and LinkedIn, for remote or virtual work or delivery, because as part of what we see on this slide here and what we need to be thinking about is companies or industries that are actually growing and booming during this time. I would Google industries or companies that are hiring in your area or benefiting from this current shutdown. Things like meal delivery or delivering anything, medication, whatever, those are going to go through the roof. Places like, you know, Zoom and places that host virtual meetings, obviously, remote work and contract positions. I saw on the news this morning that obviously Instacart is hiring a lot of shoppers and different people. So just wanted to point that out and give you all some ideas that are timely. And just so you know, you all know too, on the next slide here, we are as an organization and with our team, we're trying to post as much information as possible about what you can do to work more effectively remotely as well during these times and, you know, manage your team and anything else that you need. We are posting a lot of that timely information on LinkedIn and on our social media channels. So please connect with me on LinkedIn for more career advice, especially, you know, during this particular time. So let's shift to our topic for today, given all of that kind of in the background. And one of the things that I did want to tell you all is when we're talking today about, you know, how do I know if it's time to leave my company, my industry, my organization, whatever, I know firsthand, not just from coaching people for so long, but firsthand how it feels to not know what the right career fit is, not know whether it's time to change jobs or should I just stay put and feel lucky that I have one. A long time ago when I was in my early 20s, this is me on the far left and my mom and sister, I was living in my mother's basement and I was incredibly depressed. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had 5 different jobs in my early 20s in completely different industries and I was totally lost. And I wasn't really sure, like at the last job that I had before I started figuring out my coaching practice, I had a pretty cool job actually at A&E Television. It was here in Atlanta at the time. And my mom and everybody else was like, all my friends, well, that's a cool job. Why would you want to leave it, right? But I was really unhappy. But I wasn't sure if it was something that I should just stick out because it was a passing phase or, hey, I had to pay my dues, or if it was time to make a move. So the advice that we're going to give you today is based not just on the time that we have had coaching clients, but also my own personal experience going through this same kind of journey. And if you fast forward today, I'm 47 today, I feel like and want you to know that it is possible for you to feel very engaged in your work on a regular basis, that you're connected to your coworkers and boss in a meaningful way, okay? That you can feel in the flow with your job. It doesn't just have to be outside of work with your hobbies. And that you can be leveraging and using your natural talents on a regular basis and feel fulfilled. And that's what we are always going for with our clients. And we want them to know that you can have a job actually that you truly love and enjoy. Now, here's one of the things that I did want to say first, and then we'll take a quick look at our agenda for today, what we're going to be talking about. What I do want you to know is that even though all of that's possible, and that's how our clients feel after working with us, that this also is not Pollyanna. It's not always just do what you love and the money will follow and, fall in your lap. Is that actually true? What I tell people is that yes and no, it is to a certain extent that I love what I do. And ever since I started my business in my late 20s, I do feel like this is what I was meant to do, right? And I'm leveraging my natural talents and all of that. But the thing is that it's not like it just happened overnight and, the money just followed. It was very hard work. And I've worked very hard to grow my company and my business to where it is today. So it's not exactly do what you love and the money will follow. But what I will tell you is that it is that if you are doing something that you truly enjoy, it feels so much less like work than you could ever imagine. So that's what we're going for, everyone. So to have the right perspective on thinking about, is it time for me to make a career change after all the COVID stuff kind of dies down, or even, during the time now, if that's what's best for you, is we want you to have the right perspective of no job is going to be absolutely perfect. No career path is always going to be peaches and cream and perfect at all times, and you're going to love every second of the day. I really think that that's unrealistic, okay? What we want our clients to go for is to feel like the good parts about what they do so far outweighs the bad, if you take a look at this slide, that you barely notice those bad or difficult things. So for example, there are things in my job that of course I don't want to do, like spreadsheets, not my thing. Financials, not my favorite thing either. But I barely notice those things because there's so much about what I do that does work for me and is positive and is aligned with my values and my talents, et cetera, that I can deal with those other things that aren't so great, okay? So you want to have the right perspective of the good stuff. What I'm going for in my career path is the good part about it so far outweighs the bad or the difficult things that I barely notice those. That's the right balance and having the right perspective, okay? So let's take a look at our quick agenda here. We're going to talk about why this is important and why being in the right fit is important in the first place. We are going to give you 8 red flags to help you better understand if you are in the wrong fit, meaning you need to make a move at some point versus, oh, this is just, a temporary frustration or, something else that's going on. Third, we're going to talk about how to help you define fulfillment for you. And is it present in your current career path? And then finally, we're going to talk about our ideal career model that we use with our clients. This is a model that I developed after having done this for so long to help you know once and for all, am I in the right career fit? or do I need to make a change? Okay. And just as a quick reminder for those of you just joining us now as well, if any of you would like a copy of the presentation, please feel free to email us at admin@halliecrawford.com. We would be happy to share that with you as a PowerPoint, not a problem, so you don't feel like you have to be frantically writing everything down. And I'm going to get to this next slide here, but I did want to just try to share a little bit of positive news given everything that's going on in the world as well, is that we completely understand, obviously, that some people's jobs, some people are losing their jobs or are on the verge of that, and there's a lot of difficult situations out there. And we also know from working with our clients, though, too, just FYI, that our clients are still getting interviews. They're being contacted by recruiters. There are a lot of places that, for the most part, not exactly, but they're conducting business as usual as much as they can. It does depend on the industry, obviously, and what's going on there. But please know that people are still hiring. I was talking with a client yesterday. He said he knows someone that just started at Cox Communications here in Atlanta last week. And that particular person has 2 interviews in the next couple of weeks. So we have about 5 clients right now currently that are in interview mode, and they are getting contacted by recruiters. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We just have to get a little bit creative about where we're finding those openings and looking at industries that are still doing okay or are thriving from this. Okay, so back to our agenda. Number 1, why is this important to think about? Our long-term career path and being fulfilled. Why does this matter? It matters because there's too many people out there that are not in the right fit, okay? Every few years, there's a Gallup study or a different organization, the Conference Board, will do a study on satisfaction in terms of jobs. And it's always around 51%, give or take, of people out there are not engaged in their work and don't feel like they're in the right fit. And that's not a good thing, because if that's the case, we're not going to be doing a good job. We're going to get burned out. We're going to get more stressed. And we're just going to feel lethargic over time and kind of blah in our personal lives as well. So what we want you to do first, if you can get out your pen and paper for us, please, is we want you to set and identify a goal for yourself about, okay, once I figure out, is it time to go? Like, how long is this going to take me to figure this out? So if I'm satisfied, I'm relatively satisfied, and I'm cool with staying put until COVID dies down, or, you know, the rest of the year, whatever makes sense for you in terms of projects you have going on. You may just want to say, hey, let me think about this and be prepared if things change, if something happens later on. You may fall in the category number 2 of, hey, I'm somewhat satisfied. And for you all, we want you to think about one of the exercises is to think about what works for you at your current job and what does not work. That's a great simple exercise that will help you start to identify, okay, what's going on, and be more practical and objective about what's going on, because this situation for people is usually very emotional and they feel like they're on spin cycle in the dryer. There's all this stuff going around in their head and they're not really sure, gosh, is there actually a lot that works for me at my current job, and it's really just about my company, or it's about the people I work with, or something else. Writing this list like this, what works in one column, what doesn't work in another column, that helps you more rationally evaluate what's happening. And then finally, and if we could go ahead and get the poll going, Megan, that would be great. This first one, if you have that. If you don't, totally get it. How many of you currently feel engaged at work consistently is what we're looking for. Our third category is, gosh, I'm very unsatisfied and I really need to define the right fit. If that's the case for you, please know that it usually takes our clients who are working full-time a couple of months to really figure out the right long-term fit. So you need to give yourself a little bit of time to really think this through. But that's sort of the normal time frame, like 2 or 3 months to do the online research and the work that we want them to, and then also to conduct those informational interviews to learn a little bit more about what's out there. And Megan, if you wouldn't mind, when we have, you know, almost 100% participation or close enough, if you could read me the results, I can never figure out where they are on my thing. Plus, I can't see them.
Oh, sure, no problem. We have so far 31% says yes, they do feel engaged, and 65% says no, I do not.
Okay. All right, thanks for sharing that, guys. The good news is that you're not alone. That's what, part of why we share this. Please know that this is a very normal experience and feeling. And the other good news is you're in the right place, okay? And for those of you who feel like you're satisfied, you may say to yourself, hey, I just need to think this through just to be prepared if something changes over time, okay? We talked about why this is important a little bit already, but just to add a little bit to it, being discontent in your job and unhappy, it really takes a toll of the quality of your lives inside work, but also outside work and your well-being. It's a really big deal. And it does result in lower productivity for companies and organizations. So technically, organizations should want fulfilled, happy employees. I know it doesn't always feel that way, but technically they should. We have clients all the time that will come to us, and because they're not feeling fulfilled and rewarded in what they do, their self-esteem has taken a hit. So please know if your confidence is lower as a result of this as well, that's normal too, and you can get it back, I promise. And then finally, like we said earlier, this lower sense of fulfillment, okay? And then worst case scenario, we can have incidences of depression, stress, physical ailments that come out of this. And this happened to me, actually. We'll go to this next slide here to let you take a look at that. But the last full-time job that I had, I was actually crying in the bathroom for several weeks, several months, every other day almost, because it just was taking a toll on my mental and physical health. And I started getting sick on a regular basis with different things. I had to have minor surgery because I had just a minor accident, et cetera, et cetera. Point being, it was actually affecting me physically. And that's part of how I knew it was time to go and make a move and do something else, because I physically couldn't handle it anymore. The good news is, like we said, is that you can find the right fit. It does take time and effort, okay? This is not wave a magic wand and it happens tomorrow. You have to put in the time and effort and be willing to do the self-reflection that it requires, as well as the research. And by the way, everyone, even be willing to pay your dues a little bit in this next position. So I want to be, or the next industry or new organization that you end up in. So I do want you to be realistic and be realistic with you about this isn't Pollyanna wave a magic wand and it happens overnight either. But what I will tell you is, although it does take time to make it happen, it is so worth it. Because when I look back at the time it took me to make the transition from crying in the bathroom to the day I started my coaching business, I would do it all over again, even if it took twice as long, because I'm so much happier than I was at that point, okay? 98% of our clients, they find the right fit. So we do know that this is possible, although it takes work, like we said. One of the things that I did want to share with you all as well is that the majority of our clients, about 70% give or take, make less dramatic of a change in terms of their career direction than they think they need to in order to be fulfilled. So please know too, is as you work through this, the tools that we're going to give you today, if you're starting to think about things and career ideas that are similar to what you do now or what you've done in the past, please know that that's completely normal. We all choose the current jobs that we're in, hopefully for a reason outside of I just need to pay my bills. Most people hopefully don't say, I'm going to hate this job, let me go do it, right? You know, we chose it for a reason. So there's elements of it that probably still do work for you, but you need to make a course correction or some shifts in some of the other elements, and you'll see what I mean by this in just a few minutes when we look at our career model. So a lot of times, just keep in mind, a course correction may be enough to help you be that much happier and fulfilled, okay? And you can feel all of these things on this next slide: connected, fulfilled, useful, like you're using your talents and skills, okay? Just by the way, TED Talks, we love these. There was a TED Talk that talked about what motivates us at work. And so these are some of the things that you may want to start to write down as you're writing down and thinking about, okay, what do I want to have in my ideal job, okay? So the second step after you start to write down the things that work where I am now and the things that don't work where I am now, you also, as part of those lists, you want to translate those, everyone. You want to translate those into things that I want to have in an ideal job. And some of these things from one of these TED Talks that's fantastic are listed on here. Most of us want to see the fruits of our labor and want to see some sort of results from what we do. So you want to write down and think about for yourselves, gosh, do I see that, and do I see any results in my current job? And if I don't, is that part of what's wrong? And can I never really see that much result in my job because of the nature of what it is? And that means, gosh, it's probably time to move on and do something else. The less appreciated we feel our work is, the more money we want to do it typically. So usually people that feel fulfilled in their work, they're willing to compromise a little bit more on compensation. So appreciation in some way, shape, or form from our boss, from our organization is an important thing. The harder a project is, the prouder we feel of it. And knowing that our work helps others in some way will help increase our motivation. So these are studies that or insights that demonstrate what kind of drives and motivates people in the workplace. So these are some of the things that you want to think about. Are you getting these items? Are they present in your current job? And if none of them are, it may be time to move on. You really want to think about that. So let's discuss next those 8 red flags to help you understand if you're in the wrong fit and it's time to move on. And by the way, we would say that if you've got 6 or more of these, then it probably is time to move on. You can weigh these based on what's most important to you, but that's typically kind of our scale for clients. So one of the red flags is that you dread getting out of bed, and it's not just on, Monday morning, but it's pretty much every morning. I'll tell you all that I don't dread getting out of bed in the morning. There are some days that I do, of course. And of course, some days I'd rather have won the lotto or be independently wealthy or whatever it is and not work at all. But at the end of the day, I still want to work and do what I do, even when it's time for me to retire. So I don't have this sense. Number 2, if your work relationships are suffering and your work performance is suffering, that's a huge red flag. I almost would put that down as, if that's the case, it's definitely time to go, even just that one. If you work a lot and your life balance is totally out of whack, and in addition to that, you're working a lot and you're getting no joy out of it or satisfaction, that's a big one. And if you've started to really just slack off, kind of senioritis, if you will, and really just have no motivation, there's definitely something going on there that you want to consider making some kind of change. Several other ones are if you become or feel like you have to become someone else at work in order to fit into the culture or the culture of the organization, or, in order to perform effectively. If you can't be authentic in yourself, that's a huge red flag. If your job doesn't make use of your natural talents and skills or your strengths, that's a bad one too. We all need to have or feel like we are leveraging our natural talents and abilities. Number 7 is if you spend most of your time complaining about your job, that's not a good thing either. And finally, the 8th one is if you regularly fantasize about quitting, being fired, or let go. Quick funny story, and then I'll tell you how to kind of rank these for yourselves. 5+ red flags, it's time to make a change. 3 or 4, you're probably not in the right career, but maybe closer to your ideal than you think. And 1 or 2, you may just be going through a rough patch and you may just want to reevaluate things in a month or so. So this is how, with this 8 red flag checklist, how you know kind of what your situation is and what you need to be thinking about. We had a client years ago who, she got on the phone, this was probably like our 3rd session, and I said, gosh, you sound really good. She was checking in with me, her energy was better, she seemed happier, whatever else. And about a minute in, I said that to her, and she was like, oh yeah, I feel great. And I said, well, why? She said, I got fired last week. Well, I get that not everybody wants to be fired. I understand that. But for her, she was just so miserable at her job. It was just making her sick that it was actually a really good thing. So she not only fantasized about it, but it enabled her to kind of free up her time to really, jump into her job search a lot more wholeheartedly than she had been able to before. So if we can pull up the second poll here, Megan, that would be great. And what I want you all to do is, when you get the presentation, print them out, write them out, whatever is best for you, but do a quick evaluation of how many red flags did you check off and evaluate what situation you're in. With the 1 or 2, you may need to reevaluate it in like 3 months, given everything else that's going on in the world, whatever is best for you, or after the project is complete that you're working on, you know, whatever makes sense for you. But this is the way that you kind of can identify how dramatic a change or how hard you need to start working at this or not, okay? So think about that. And Megan, if you could go ahead and read out our poll results, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, of course. We have 74% have voted so far. 12% say yes, they are in the right fit. Oh, actually, that just changed. 11% say yes, they're in the right fit. 56% are saying no, and we have 33% still unsure.
Okay, got it. All right, thanks for sharing that. And sorry if you guys heard my son
You're
in the
welcome.
back. I was like trying to deal with stuff there. Okay, good. Thanks for sharing that. So write down where you are, everyone, so that you know kind of how quickly you need to start working on this and pursuing it. By the way, too, for everybody, I wanted to reference that I am offering a free career strategy session to help you with any career goal that's going on, in addition to what we're talking about today. Please feel free to email us at admin@halliecrawford.com. Be happy to set that up with you to just help you kind of think through, okay, now I know I need to make a change or whatever it is, but you know, what are some of the follow-up steps I need to take, okay? So feel free to just email us about that. Okay, so tip number 3, that is a really important one, and this is actually one of the first ones that we work on with our clients right away, is to define what's fulfilling and rewarding to you, or would be in terms of your career, okay? And so one of the things that we want you to ask yourselves, and go ahead and write this down, is, does your current job bring you fulfillment in some way, shape, or form? And one of the things to kind of share about this is fulfillment means different things to different people. It really depends on what's important to you, what your priorities are, and all of that. And if the word fulfillment doesn't resonate with you as much, it could be that you just need to have a sense of success or a sense of accomplishment or whatever it is. So please know that you can define fulfillment in whatever way works best for you, okay? And it can be a sense of accomplishment or just success, or, hey, I want to feel like I, you know, did a good job or whatever it is, okay? So one of the ways that I just pulled up on the slide here to help you define fulfillment is to define and think about what success means to you. So again, like I said a moment ago, success means different things to different people. It could be about money. It could be about the work environment and they have really good relationships at work. It could be about I have flex time and life balance. There's so many different ways to define success. So one of the ways to think about or define what's fulfilling and rewarding to you is to write down later on, or when you're driving home from work today, if you're still at your office, or just go outside later today, whatever it is, to kind of journal about what does success mean to me? Okay, that's the first one. Another way to start to define what fulfillment is for you, or what it would be career-wise, is to identify and think about what are your interests outside of work as well as inside of work. Where are the times or places that you tend to lose track of time inside and outside of work? Because that can give you a sense of the tasks that you should be performing more regularly. You can also think about your ideal day at work and visualize or journal about that. What qualities are present when you start to write down, you know, what your ideal day at work would be like for you, okay? And then finally, we'd like you to start to work on identifying your top 3 career values. And I'll tell you how to do this right now. So the reason why we have our clients define fulfillment first is because we find that they get the best career ideas from thinking about this element of our career model right out of the box. They get the most sense of direction, brainstorming new ideas from defining what and identifying what their values are. And the way that we do this is we have them think about a peak experience in their lives, and to start writing about that and focus on that peak experience And we do, by the way, have them do a personal peak experience, okay, not a professional one. Because if you do personal first, you're going to get deeper into who you are as a person and what's truly meaningful to you as a person versus, oh, I should put these, values on my list. So identify a peak experience, write down what was cool about it for you, what the elements were about it that were appealing. A little bit less about the details, guys, and more about what was neat about it for me. Why is it a peak experience for me? And then start to identify what your values are from that peak experience. I'll give you a quick example, and then we'll keep moving. A peak experience for 2 people could be a trip to Italy, for example, that they took a long time ago, let's say. And for one person, when they describe and talk about that peak experience, they're talking about the culture and the art there and the beauty and the history, something like that. And another person describing that same trip might be talking about the planning of it and figuring out the itinerary and how long it would take to get to each place and all of that. They're a completely 2 different set of values in that same peak experience. One person has values of organizing and planning and being prepared and maybe even like project management, right? And the other person has a value maybe of culture, history, historical context, or making things beautiful like marketing or graphic design type of thing, okay? So when you think about and write about your peak experience, remember you want to give yourself a couple minutes to think about it and journal about it. And then you want to write down again what was cool about it for you, because that will help you start to pull out what some of your values are, okay? One of the things that I wanted to say about this as well is sharing your peak experience with a coach or a friend or family member. That is really, really helpful because they a lot of times can help you pull out what some of those values are. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you real quick, and then we'll skip back to the slide previously, is to help you identify your values, but also the other elements that you need to identify to determine your career path. Is we are giving a really big discount for people who would like to purchase our workbook that outlines our whole coaching process to help you figure all of this out. The discount code is alumni, and basically what you would do, everybody, is you would just go to this link here, and Megan, maybe we can put this in the follow-up email so people have it too, make it easier. But if you go to this link here, you can plug in alumni as you're checking out, and it will give you this big discount because we know kind of financially people may be a little bit more stretched these days. So everything that we talk about today plus a lot more is listed in the workbook. So going back to what we were talking about with the career model, our kind of next step here is I did want to show you, in addition to identifying what's fulfilling to you, is we want you also to review our ideal career model and the 8 pieces that tell you exactly what you need to know and understand about yourselves in order to know the right career fit. So the career model is really helpful because it helps you be more objective and consider all the necessary components of the right career fit. And then it's also really helpful because it helps you kind of break things down step by step and review each piece one by one, step by step, so that it feels a little bit less overwhelming for you. Our workbook that I was just talking about is built around this career model. So it goes section by section through each of these pieces. All right, so we're going to talk about this for just a moment today so you get kind of a flavor of what's going on here. So we have our clients start with the fulfillment piece of the model, go to the left to enjoyment, talent, skills, education, experience, up to personality, work environment, and compensation. It's kind of like a puzzle. The pieces are falling into place as you're brainstorming ideas and narrowing down your ideas. That's why the pieces are falling into place. So you define fulfillment by identifying your values. You think about and determine what's going to be most enjoyable to you by thinking about your most enjoyable tasks. You need to be leveraging your strengths. So we want you to identify and understand what your strengths are, and if you're leveraging those in your current job or not, and the ones that you want to be leveraging more so. You want to look at your education, classes you took at UGA or even in grad school, for example. Were there classes that, gosh, I actually really liked, but I kind of forgot about, that you want to bring forward going forward? Your past experience, what you've enjoyed and what you haven't enjoyed. Your personality type, if you're more introverted or extroverted, and how that interacts with your work environment. And compensation as well, what your salary requirements are. So this is the basics of how you define each of these pieces, okay? And you want to think for yourselves now, at this point in your life as well, which ones are the highest priority for you? Because as we talked about earlier, no job is going to be perfect. There's going to be elements of things that we don't like as much, but we feel like we can compromise on those things, so that's okay. So the bottom line that we want you to understand and know is the model and everything else that we're talking about today is because we want you to be at choice. We want you to feel like I am choosing the places where I can compromise versus, oh, I'm stuck in this job and I'm unhappy and I don't know what to do next, okay? The model helps you be more at choice about, okay, what is the right next step and is it time to go, and how dramatic a change is it that I need to make, okay? Let's talk for a moment about why we get into the wrong fit, because it relates directly to the model. The reason why people get stuck in the wrong job, or they're unsure if they're in the right job or not, is a lot of times because they're really good at it and they got pigeonholed and people keep asking them to do the same stuff, but it's no longer rewarding for them, or it never was in the first place. We will have friends or family members, I said this earlier, or social influences. Well, I'm supposed to be just happy that I have a job in the first place, or they all think it's such a cool job, maybe I should think it's a cool job and just suck it up. Some people take a job because it was offered to them and they understandably needed to pay their bills. I've done this before. I had to pay off my graduate school loans. So a job that I knew was not going to be a fit for me, it was offered and I took it. That was the one where I was crying in the bathroom after 2 years. Some people get stuck because it's a really high salary and it's the golden handcuffs and they keep throwing more stuff at you, and so you stay. And then finally, we want you to think about in terms of, ask yourself this question here just for a second. Why are you in your current job, and is it for the right reasons? Going back to the career model, okay? And if any of you have taken a career assessment before and you're like, okay, well, that was kind of helpful, but it didn't really help me get the big picture. The career assessments typically, and let's go to this real quick, and then Megan will get to our third poll here in just a second. Career assessments like StrengthsFinder or Myers-Briggs, they're very helpful, everybody, but they only assess or give you results for one of the pieces of the model. So that's where, while we highly recommend them and we think they're great because they give you accurate information in a short period of time, remember, they're only testing you for one of the pieces of the model. StrengthsFinder tells you what your talents and skills are, but you still have to think about compensation and personality type and all of these other elements. Myers-Briggs, for example, tells you a lot about your personality type, but it's not going to talk to you about compensation or work environment. So you may be in the right industry or even in the right role, but you're at the wrong company, for example. And this is why people sometimes have to just make a course correction, okay? So going back to the previous slide here, we do recommend the career assessments, but if any of you feel like, gosh, I took one of those and it didn't really help, it's because you have to consider and plug it into the rest of these pieces. So we are kind of curious for our last and third poll here today. Megan, if you could launch that, that'd be great. How many of you have taken a career assessment? And I should probably add to this question in the long run, and how many of you felt like it was helpful for the big picture or not? Hopefully what we talked about today gives you some insight into what needs to be different. And Megan, if you could just read those results, that would be great. And then we'll start to close out and get to Q&A here in just a moment.
Yes, of course. So far we have 76% of folks have voted and 77% have taken a career assessment, 29% have not.
Oh, wow. So that's a lot. Okay, good. So I'm glad that you all have done that. And what I would like you to, I'd like to suggest for the people that haven't, but also the people that have, is where do those results, those assessment results, what do they tell you? What information do they give you based on the model? And then what do you need to kind of enhance or beef up or really focus on in order to figure out the rest of the pieces? That will help tell you, okay? So as we start to get to our Q&A portion, I just want to start to kind of wrap things up before we do the Q&A. Quick review of what we talked about to give you ideas about next steps that I'd like to suggest that you take. We talked about why this is important in the first place. The 8 red flags, really good action step for you to take on to do that. That's the first thing that I would actually do, because then you can determine, okay, how dramatic of a change is it? How quickly do I need to move forward? We highly recommend the values exercise and then also printing out the ideal career model to start to use that as a checklist. Just by the way, what I'd like you to all to do next is get out your pen and paper and start to think about 2 action steps that you will take in the next couple of weeks as a result of being here today. By the way, if anyone is interested in talking with me about our coaching services, I would be happy to do that with you. Same as the rest of the information, you would just email us at admin@halliecrawford.com, and I will send you a link to my calendar. As you're thinking about your action steps, remember it's not real if it's not in writing. So make sure that you write those down for us and add them to your calendar when we're done, okay? What will be different in the 2 action steps. And then finally, as you're thinking about those things, I just wanted to close out kind of my portion here for today. And then Megan, if you wouldn't mind reading me the questions that come through, that just helps me a lot. I have a hard time like reading them and then answering at the same time too. The quote that I always, I have always tried to kind of live by and that I pay attention to, it's hanging over my desk when I have to do something that just feels like, ugh, I'd rather not do this, I'd rather put it off, I'm not into it, or this seems really hard, whatever is going on in your head about making a career change is the greatest risk in life is not taking one. Do you want to say at the end of your life to your grandkids, kids, whatever, friends, did I try to make a change and try to move towards something fulfilling and rewarding, or I didn't do anything about it? You know the answer. We all want to say that at least we tried to figure something out. So I really encourage you to take action about what we talked about today. And just remember, everybody, it can be in baby steps. You don't have to do everything at once. Take it step by step, okay? And we'll start to move to Q&A here. Feel free to get our workbook, especially when it's discounted like it is right now. We're going to leave this discount for the next, like several weeks so people can use it at any point. But just take it in baby steps and realize that it can take time, but oh my gosh, it is so absolutely worth it. Okay, thanks for your time, everybody. We really appreciate it. Megan, do we have any questions to get us started?
We do. The first question goes back to what you were talking about towards the beginning, and that is, can you explain what it means to be engaged in your career? Is it basically the same thing as being happy, or are those 2 different things?
Oh, great question. So the engaged is a little bit like, it's similar to and related to being like happy and, okay, I have this sense of, reward or whatever, but feeling engaged in my book is actually a little bit different in that it's almost like you're in the flow, because it's not just that you're happy, but you're also like in the right work environment. Your job honors your values, and so you feel like connected to your organization and what you're doing, which is also bigger than just being happy. And finally, you're also leveraging your strengths on a regular basis, which is different from being happy too. So really being engaged is ideally you like lose track of time because all, things are hitting on all cylinders, so to speak. Does that answer?
Yes, I think that's great. Perfect.
Okay, cool.
The next question we have is, how much time should I spend on defining my career values?
Great question. So I would do it honestly, over the course of like a couple or 3 days, give or take. Not that it's going to take all that time, every single hour, obviously, but you want to give yourself a little bit of time because new values may come up or how you define them may come up over the course of 3 days. Don't try to do it all in one fell swoop. But I would give yourself about like a half an hour at the start to journal about what your values are. Think about your peak experience. You may want to think about, another 1 or 2 other peak experiences and even add into there a work peak experience. start out with a half an hour. And if I were to say total amount of time, I really think people can define their career values pretty accurately, you know, within an hour and a half or a couple hours spread out over the course of a few days.
Okay,
hopefully that
great.
answers. Yeah.
Yes. One more question is, what if I'm not sure what my values are even after doing the peak experience exercise?
Sure. So I would suggest getting the workbook, because there are more exercises in there to help you with your values. And the other thing that you could do is, if you Google career values, you're going to see some values, like some lists of values, you know, posted on the internet. And you can get some ideas from what people post about either what theirs are or some examples online as well. So those are two things that you can do to help with that. And that's part of when we're working with clients, when they talk with us and share what their values, what they think they are, obviously we're able to help validate what those are, because, you know, we get to know them, we understand what's important to them, and are also able to say, like, okay, yes, these are values or not. But the workbook also has that piece of it too. Great question.
Okay, great. I don't see any more questions that have come in, so I want to take a moment just to remind everybody that this recording will be sent to you, if not today, tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. And just remember, you can make appointments with the Career Center via Handshake. We are still fully operational, working remotely, so nothing has changed on that end for us. Thank you all for coming. And Hallie, do you have any final parting words before we say goodbye?
I don't, just, well, actually I do, is try to stay as positive as possible. I know that can be easier said than done given everything that's going on, but try to see this as, you know, it's a challenge and one that we just got to overcome and work around. And let's all try to step up to the plate as much as we can to be creative about what we need to do. And like I said at the beginning, there are people still hiring out there, and in some ways, for some people, this is a great time to kind of do this self-reflection and think about what is the right long-term thing for me. So good luck, just take it step by step.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much, Hallie. Thank you to all of our participants who attended today, and everyone have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye-bye.